Sources confirmed Tuesday that the comic book and sci-fi expo Comic-Con was once again marred by BullyCon, an increasingly popular event held in the same convention space. Now in its 5th year, BullyCon reportedly drew more than 125,000 tormentors from across the nation, all of whom were bent on beating up and torturing those attending the many comic book, television, and movie panels at...
Hello folks, Salmon here, hunkering down in my relaxation room on the 23rd floor of the Salmon Plaza building high above downtown Bakersfield. It occurred to me that one thing I have never done is a show-by-show analysis of the original episodes of To Catch a Predator. So why don't we do that? The quality of video that I could get my hands on is really low. They all resemble Hansen's update videos when he first showed up with Nicotra on YouTube.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Hansen in New York City. Just wanted to tell you how excited I am about my new...
Nicotra. There's a name I haven't said aloud for a while. Blech. Regardless of video quality, I think this analysis is long overdue, don't you? Let's see what we will find when Salmon watches Season 1, Episode 1 of To Catch a Predator. Our first introduction to the Dateline Hansen brand of catching predators. This first one was filmed in Bethpage, Long Island, and it aired in November of 2004. Dell was a smoky-throated young siren. Frag was still years from chasing his weightlifting dreams. It was all fresh and new. They hadn't yet settled on the name that we know and love, To Catch a Predator. At this time, it wasn't even guaranteed to be a series. It was called Dangerous Web. But for the incredibly positive response from viewers, this was going to be a one-off episode of Dateline. It isn't as iconic as later episodes, even though 18 men showed up over 2.5 days. The production values seen on later episodes is definitely not present.
It's a Dateline hidden camera investigation no parent will want to miss.
Come in.
This man could be your neighbor. He thinks he's at this house to have sex with a 14-year-old girl.
Sit at the counter. I gotta finish getting dressed.
That's a line that gets reused throughout the series. Just sit at the counter. I have to finish getting dressed. It's not as funny as Dell whacking her toe on the banister, but little is. With the low quality here, I thought Chris had his hand on Frag's head.
Alright, I'm about to be Mandy.
These adult volunteers pose online as kids to catch internet predators.
Mandy, and how old are you?
Mandy is 13.
All these men were trolling the internet, looking for kids, having explicit conversations, and then making arrangements to meet.
Wants to take me to an available buddy's house, and...
But when they arrived for their date, the young teens weren't there. Dateline was.
What's on for NBC News?
The soup strainer mustache this guy appears to be sporting. I'll bet you there isn't a 13-year-old girl alive that can resist that Brillo pad.
Oh yes, we can. You'll be shocked by who showed up. Almost as shocked as they were when Dateline dropped in.
Am I going to jail?
Chris Hansen with a Dateline hidden camera investigation. Dateline with Stone Phillips will continue after this brief message. And now, Dangerous Web. Here is Stone Phillips.
We want to warn you, some of what you're about to see and hear tonight is graphic and explicit. Here's Chris Hansen.
This is a house on an average street in an average town. It could be your town, but there's something very different about this place.
This guy, the longshoreman creeping up with his Cartman beanie, the coat with the flipped-up collar. This guy has "Run" written all over him.
A crime that happens more often than you'd ever imagine. This grown man is here after making a date for sex with a 14-year-old girl he met only hours earlier on the internet.
Creepers and peepers. Something about these guys seems more cavalier. Cautious but laid back. I don't know. It seems as if the guys in future episodes, who knew about the show and were well aware of the possibility that they may be walking into a sting, they seemed less cautious. They may have been nervous, but very few showed the calmness that the guys in Bethpage showed. It's as though the guys in the later shows were anxious to see if the gamble was going to be in their favor or not. Like they wanted to get the arrest over with if that's what was going to happen. Not in Bethpage, boy. These were your standard perv, creeping around the premises, not tainted by the knowledge of a show aimed at exposing them and their ilk. It is truly a look at predators in the wild.
It's just disgusting stuff that they send to me just to try to get me into looking at disgusting websites.
And many parents aren't as computer savvy as their children, making it tougher to protect kids from internet predators.
The combination of their social naivete,
King Louis XIV made a cameo,
and our computer naivete is a dangerous combination.
as did Mr. Weatherby.
There seems to be a bottomless barrel of cases. You go out there, and no matter what you do, there just seems to be more and more of these individuals.
Internet predators are very good at convincing you that they're your friend.
Now here they reference a tragic story of the murder of this woman's niece, 13-year-old Christina Long, back in 2002. It was one of the first widely covered stories of internet predation turned deadly. She was barely a teenager in Danbury, Connecticut when she was murdered by 25-year-old Saul Dos Reis after meeting at a mall to have sex. For you Lornographers, it's very likely that this story was Lorne's point of reference during the following exchange with Kayla. Nobody's ever said anything to you about the internet?
No. Like what?
Wow, I'm surprised your mom and dad haven't. Well, about all the weirdos on it and what happens on it.
What happens on it?
Girls have given guys their information, like their address and home phone number and stuff, and the guys would find them and do bad things to them.
Really? Like what?
Do you know what rape is?
Yeah.
Well, they rape them, and some women and girls have even gotten killed.
Wow.
So, promise me, you never give your information out to anyone, okay?
Okay, I promise.
Despite public awareness of the tragic Christina Long story, by 2004, when this episode aired, it seems that the awareness of internet chomos preying on kids still was not noticeably a part of the public discourse. I believe To Catch a Predator, or Dangerous Web in this case, changed that.
Enter a group called Perverted Justice, a kind of online vigilante organization whose mission is to do what it believes law enforcement doesn't always have the resources to do: make a full-time job of going after internet predators. And they do it by posing as kids online.
This is what a 13-year-old girl looks like at Perverted Justice.
Frag here is nearly 40. As I mentioned previously, after TCAP, Frag went on to focus on weightlifting. Bloat maxing, perhaps? Dude had the build for it. I don't know how successful he was, but it's interesting trivia.
We rented this house in a middle-class neighborhood on a main street far from any school. Our technicians rigged the house with hidden cameras inside and out.
I bet that's him.
And we enlisted the help of volunteers from Perverted Justice, who make it their mission to expose some of the estimated 50,000 predators nationwide said to be trolling the internet at any given time. Volunteers like 21-year-old Dell.
Protecting little children from people who would destroy their lives. It's just such a worthy cause.
Dell and other volunteers like 38-year-old Frag, or using their undercover names, go online, posing as 12, 13, or 14-year-olds, using a picture that is unmistakably underage. Some volunteers pretend to be girls and some boys. Either way, they never make the first contact. Instead, they wait to be seduced.
I have some doubts about the tactics that Perverted Justice used. Though Chris says they never approached the men first or approached the topic of sex first, I get the sense that they were more focused on catching guys being filthy with kids by any means possible, including baiting. That doesn't excuse the behavior of the predator, but I think it's untruthful to state that they did not do so. Now check out Dell portraying a young girl's voice. She did pretty well.
Hey, is this John? Hey, it's Mandy.
Dell, now posing as a 13-year-old girl, does exactly that. She tells the predator her parents aren't home, and that it'd be okay for him to come to her house.
I was just making sure you were for real because I wanted to know you really wanted this.
It seems like her future roles were mostly male, but she does a good job here. Speaking of job, I believe that Dell currently has a job working in online safety with Twitter. Oh, and check this out. The Yahoo Instant Messenger. There's a relic of the past. The vehicle for so many of the TCAP brood, including Lorne Armstrong himself, despite his assertion that MySpace IM was the safest of the chatting platforms.
There would be dozens of sexually graphic online chats intended for children. Chats so disgusting we can't even begin to show you. There would also be picture exchanges and phone calls. But how many of these men would be willing to make a date and then be bold enough to walk in the door? We didn't have to wait long to find out, and we caught it all on our hidden cameras.
Steve, or SR8219, is your typical D-bag.
And as far as Steve is concerned, there's a real 14-year-old in this house. As for why he's here, after we read you part of his online chat, it will be pretty clear.
This is a real treat. Dell doing the chat log read. There's a lot of laughs to be had when it comes to the voice acting on TCAP and Hansen vs. Predators. But this is the rare occasion when Dell actually does the reading. I can't tell if Frag reads the male part. Check it out.
You on the pill?
No. You wear condoms?
If you want me to, but I'm sterile.
Okay, then you don't have to wear a condom if you don't want to.
But before we have sex, I want you to make me
He then assaults the girl with chat about oral and anal sex and even asks a series of deeply personal questions like, when do you get your period? And another offensive question about her personal hygiene.
His bandana tells you he's a motorcycle guy committing a moped crime.
He starts to communicate online, and then he is going to travel to where the child is, or he's going to try to get the child to travel to where he is, also they can engage in actual sexual activity with the child.
He looks like a Navy guy with that bandana on. That's actually his version of a Boston cap, as Steve here is concerned his receding hairline might be a deal breaker for the 14-year-old that he was hoping to see.
He has no idea he's being videotaped.
I knew. You knew what? Exactly what was going on. Just take your hands out of your pockets for me. No, you don't have to put them up. Okay.
Steve the douche raising his hands up all exaggerated. 13 minutes in, and man, I wish Chris would have popped this guy in the face.
Says he was just coming over to check it out.
So you were obviously suspicious in the beginning. Of course I am. I'm always suspicious. Always? Do you do this a lot? No, this is the first time I've actually did show up to see what was going on. And you expect me to believe that? Yes, I do. Do you have children? Yes, I do. And how would you feel if one of your children was 13 or 14 years old, that child was home alone, chatting with somebody on the internet who ultimately came over with no parent at home? How would you feel about that as a parent? I'd be pretty pissed off.
Right. You'll hear more from Steve later.
This is 33-year-old Yakov Smirnov. Wait, is that his... Oh, Musty. I'm sorry. 33-year-old Musty, who goes by the name Me for Magic NY. Brilliant.
And he's expecting to hook up with a 13-year-old virgin.
Just sit down at the counter for a minute and I'll be down in a second.
Just hours earlier, after exposing himself online, he tells the girl he wants oral sex before he takes her virginity. And if that's not disgusting enough, he continues to titillate himself by asking intimate questions, like the size of her breasts, and other questions too disturbing for us to mention.
So you talk this way to all your friends on the internet?
Yes.
About all these sex acts and in this
yes,
way.
And everybody talking like that, and they have a web site over there too.
I always wondered why he doesn't get quoted at all in the community.
So this is just a game to you?
Yes, it's a just game.
So this is just a game to you?
Yes, it's a just game.
Petition to start including "It's a just game" in community chats.
But is it a game when you send an obscene video?
Now it sounds like you exposed yourself on a webcam.
But I'm telling you...
Did you or did you not?
I have a webcam too, and the other people have a webcam too, and we're playing. It's a just game.
You're playing?
We see each other and we're playing.
Yeah, what game were you playing on the webcam?
It's up to you, I don't know. It's a just game.
Screen name Dark Hero. This guy holds the distinction of being the only predator I can recall that posed a real and present danger to Chris, inasmuch as he actually gets up in Hansen's face, and there was no bodyguard at this early operation, or at least none stepping in to aid Chris.
Now, there's no telling what kind of unstable character might show up for a meeting with a minor. Listen as we read a little of what he said online to her just hours earlier.
I want to be your master so badly.
I've only been with one guy.
That's okay. I'll tell you exactly what to do. You'll be fine. Are you going to pose nude for me, sweetheart?
Maybe if you're really good.
Just sit down at the counter. I want to finish getting dressed, okay?
Sit down where?
At the counter?
Okay, where the light is?
Yeah.
Okay.
But instead of meeting his fantasy girl, I walk in.
Although they blurred out his face because he was allegedly a suicide risk, the work of community members some 15 years later gives us a look at the dark hero in the present.
You know, from what I've discovered, that's their worst fear. Their worst fear is that somebody like John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King or Tupac Shakur or Kurt Cobain or Biggie Smalls can get up and stand on a microphone and have 50,000 people going bananas. Is probably one of the government's biggest fears. That's right. So that's something something I've learned, and some of the other stuff that we've talked about in terms of mind control. It does, go back to things that they tried with Fidel Castro, trying to overthrow him in Cuba. I know one of the more well-known things regarding that is that they had a master plan to make his beard fall out, to have him speak in front of an audience and have his beard fall off his face as he was speaking.
Yeah,
so,
to discredit him.
I think that's at the heart of the matter, to tell you the truth.
Imagine that. He's someone highly suspicious of the government.
Have you ever done this before?
No. You'll hear much more from Dark Hero later. So what kind of man seduces a minor and then shows up in person?
Ed in NYC. This buffoon thinks he is so slick. He's another candidate for a Chris Hansen knuckle sandwich with this little charade.
He comes up with a scheme to insulate himself from possible criminal charges, and he tries to get the girl to play along.
Okay, listen, just say something to me.
What do you want me to say?
I say, Rachel, you're 19 years old, right?
I'm not, though. You know I'm not.
I don't know that.
I told you I was 14. You saw it and you said it back to me. What are you talking about?
No. Not as far as I know. As far as I know, you're 19 years old, right? Rachel, can you read between the lines?
When I walk in, Eddie admits he was trying not to incriminate himself. The fact that Eddie is so cunning doesn't surprise law enforcement experts.
Not only are they not stupid, but they're probably above average intelligent. They can be a wide variety of individuals, but a lot of them are well-educated individuals.
This narrative about the intelligence of predators seems a little shaky.
I don't want to be on the news, dog.
Well, it's a little late for that, dog.
Wow. These are home baked?
No, that sounds stupid, but...
All I gotta say is, ain't nothing going on here, dude. Nothing funny going on here.
You know, I realize as I watch this, what a bummer that we don't have the extended interviews of this sting, and the one that follows in New Jersey. I think we would have a frickin' ball with the uncut Musty or Ed in NYC. Man, oh man.
We'll get back to Eddie later. There are more men on the way. The second day of our investigation turns out to be just as busy as the first. 8 hours, 8 men. Some come looking not for girls, but for boys.
Craig, screen name 34 going on 17, was looking for a young man to scar. The real crime committed here is that he never had to face the cops or a judge and hear them say his stupid screen name, 34 going on 17. You're old. Deal with it, boomer.
He's here to meet a 14-year-old boy.
Am I going to jail?
You're not going to jail.
I know, I...
Now that's a rarity too, because there's no police involvement. In most of the episodes, when the guy asks if he's going to jail, what does Chris usually respond? That's not up to me. You see, there are some quaint little instances in these dusty reruns.
But 20-year-old Esteban, known online as Skatey Pie, walks right into the kitchen and waits, although not for long. I asked him about his online chat with who he thought was a young girl.
Why don't you tell me exactly what you talked about?
About smoking, about sex.
About sex?
Yeah.
We cut short our interview because while we were talking to Esteban, yet another man is at our door. We asked Esteban to wait in the basement.
Come with me for a second.
That is priceless. Come with me. Oh yeah, okay, sure, where are we going? Oh, the basement? Yeah, no problem. Hole. That sounds like the final words of a man never heard from again. Kids, listen. I don't care what the details are. If someone you just met says, "Follow me," and then starts leading you into the basement, don't do it.
In 2.5 days, 18 men walked down this driveway thinking they were going to meet a 12, 13, or 14-year-old home alone. All of them chatted online, often talking graphically about sex, spoke on the phone with a decoy, sent a photo, and made a date to meet at the house. But almost all the men said they weren't really here to have sex, and most shared yet another explanation.
I've never done anything like that.
How many times have you done this?
Never before in my life.
Do you do this often?
No.
How often do you do this sort of thing?
No, not very often at all.
Have you ever done this before?
No.
Do you do this often?
Never. I've never done this, and never will I do it again. I don't know what even came over me to come do this.
But perhaps the most creative excuses came from 23-year-old Mike.
Mux ACB 2003. 23-year-old Mike traveled from another state and is damn lucky the cops were not involved.
First, Mike says he's at the wrong address.
This isn't 554?
Yeah, no, this is not 554.
Then he says someone was impersonating him online.
I have no idea what this is.
He claimed he was hacked, that someone was impersonating him. Who does that sound like?
Remember, so far, these men don't realize they're being videotaped, much less that...
Oh, check out this weak-ass attempt at a Schumacher. No hat, front of the head only. Give it up, poser.
You can't put me on TV.
Yes, we can. This guy, too. He's a New York City fireman, also caught on the web.
The reality is this. You had a conversation with somebody who said they were 14 years old. It was a very explicit conversation. You got in your car and you drove by the house where she said she was home alone with no parents.
Right. When our Dateline hidden camera investigation, Dangerous Web, continues.
They've caught cops on To Catch a Predator. Guys in the military, investigators, a district attorney. Was this the only time they caught a firefighter? It's the only time I recall. And here he is. 24-year-old Ryan Hogan made plans to come over, but had second thoughts.
He makes a plan to come over to have sex with our 14-year-old, but as he drives by the house, he phones. He's having second thoughts and canceled.
He ended up calling and saying that there were moral issues and it was illegal. The decoy was too young. The truth is, there was a cop parked nearby and he got spooked. Regardless, he ended up jacking it on cam when he got home.
He gets comfortable again, turns on his webcam, exposes himself, and masturbates, all while wearing his New York City Firefighter sweatshirt.
Yeah, it's obscene. It's obscene.
And then, unbelievably, he says he's going to come by the house again. He never makes it, so we go looking for him.
This is horrible. This guy actually got arrested and lost his job. Imagine the pride his parents must have had with their 24-year-old boy serving in a career as honorable as a New York City firefighter, only to learn that he lost his job. How would he explain that? I imagine the conversation went something like this. Hey Mom, Dad, how you doing? Hey Rye Dog, how the hell are you? How are things down at the station house? What? Yeah, I don't work there anymore. Wait, what? Oh my. Yeah, I didn't really care for that job. That job's for queers. Oh my. Yeah? Well, it sure as hell ain't for pedos. They sent your damn summons to appear to our house by mistake. You're disgusting. I gotta go. But shit. What have we learned here today? Don't be creeping around the back doors of kids. Well, actually, we all knew that already. So what have we learned? Nothing. Nothing at all. We simply goofed on some predators. After all, it's a just game. Be sure to check out BakedSalmon's closet during the isolation. I recently knocked down the prices on a few designs to their lowest price possible, including Daddy's Thirsty. And for yucks, Daddy's Thirsty is now available in kids' tees. You'd have to be one sick puppy to get that for your kid. Also, the Lauren Armstrong has a posse tees are at the lowest price I can put them, In fact, I wanted to see how low the price could go, so I've introduced the Lorne Tea one step below premium grade, and would you look at that? The classic tea is only $10.99. I can't vouch for the quality, but at $10.99, how bad could it be? Also, for those who have been asking, Jim Roush is back. The premium tea is just $14.99. That is a friggin' steal. But wait, there's more. Introducing the first offering in the new line of Lorne Quote toddlerware. Whale, yell at me, why don't you? You wouldn't yell at this little one, right? That's Baked Salmon's Closet, purveyors of fine baked salmon ware. Link in the description. Special thank you to my patrons. Bless you for your support. I am delighted to welcome the newest member of my inner circle, Mr. Wes Most. And thank you to all of my subscribers. May the virus never darken your doorstep. Though I don't think it actually could. I guess it's really tiny. But nevertheless, I wish you all good health, long days, pleasant nights, and don't touch your face. Good night.